Welcome to the Story True channel, where wildly interesting and true stories await you. And Ben at the microphone. Enjoy watching. Tristan Bush had been driving for 4 hours in his comfortable SUV over potholes and back roads to an important symposium in a nearby town. The weather was disgusting: slush, dog cold, rain and snow. He looked at the unsightly houses that stood along the roadsides, the rickety fences, and an inexplicable longing came over him more and more. He recently had a hearty lunch at a roadside cafe, and now he was very thirsty. But there was not even a hint of any store nearby, and the tea in the thermos had long since ended. On the radio suddenly began to play the same sentimental song about love, loyalty, betrayal and parting, which he once loved so much in his youth. Unhappy memories flooded over the man. Zanya's childhood can be called very happy. As they say, he was born with the golden spoon in his mouth, since he was the beloved and only son in the family of professors and luminaries of medicine. His father was a leading surgeon, and his mother a gynecologist. Naturally, the child from an early age rotated in medical circles, and could not imagine any other profession. The family was intelligent and very wealthy. Zanya had the most expensive things, phones and tablets. But at the same time, the parents kept their son in strictness, did not allow him to relax and engage in all sorts of indecencies. Yes, and not before he graduated from high school with a gold medal, then a medical university, additional classes and courses. But no one cancelled youth, and one day Zanya fell in love. So, right on the street, at a glance, the girl's name was Natasha. She was an orphan, lived in a hostel and studied to be a cook in college. And in order to somehow live, she handed out advertising leaflets near the metro. The guy ran from the university to the car past the subway, and saw her. The girl was so touching and tender, practically without makeup, with cornflower blue bottomless eyes, in a simple chintz dress with a thin belt. She did not at all resemble the glib barkers who manage to give out anything they want by talking with their teeth. Natasha timidly held out the leaflet and said to passers-by, "Take it please. Tomorrow there will be a fair in the mall. Come. We will be glad to see you." At the same time, the girl blushed funny and looked away. It was clear that she clearly did not like this part-time job, and she was doing it out of desperation. The wife felt so sorry for the poor thing that he winked at her and said, "Well, who works like that? Here look." He took a pile of leaflets in his hand and shouted briskly, "Dear citizens, only tomorrow, a unique opportunity to buy everything for the house at the lowest prices. Just visit us, you won't regret it." People began to react much more actively, and within 15 minutes they had distributed all the leaflets together. The girl was happy and looked at the guy with gratitude. "Thank you. I cannot do that. And you did it all so well. Are you an actor or are you connected with the stage?" The guy laughed. "I didn't guess. I am a future plastic surgeon, studying medicine. I just like to communicate. I'm not afraid of crowds. But you won't need my services. You are so amazingly beautiful. My name is Zanya. Let's get acquainted." The girl blushed deeply at such compliments and replied, "I'm Natasha, future confectioner." "Very nice," Jenny suggested. "I understand that you have fulfilled the plan for today. Then let's go. Maybe we'll eat ice cream or drink some coffee in a cafe. You do not mind?" And then I reworked something. My head is buzzing. They chatted all evening, and did not even notice it. Both were so good and comfortable together, they didn't want to leave at all. And so their stormy and passionate romance began to spin. Zanya doted on his Natasha, called her the sun, and gave beautiful bouquets. They walked in the evenings in the park, went to the cinema and passionately kissed on the last row. Both could not imagine life without each other. It was about the wedding, especially since there was absolutely nothing left before graduation, and Natasha had already begun to work as a cook by profession. But the groom's parents were not at all pleased with such a prospect. Natasha often visited them. Her father treated her neutrally, but her mother kept trying to hook her, asking tricky and uncomfortable questions, and with all her appearance showed her dissatisfaction with her son's choice. And then Zanya could not stand it. This is what he said to his mother: "Mom, I understand that you are probably jealous, but I love Natasha and want to marry her. If you don't stop bullying her, I'll have to go to her dorm, you know." "Why do you dislike her so much?" The woman was indignant. Son, what did you find in her? An ordinary simpleton, also an orphan, a small mind, since he plows as a cook. Well, why do you need all this when Olenka does not take her eyes off you? The daughter of our businessmen friends. The family is very wealthy, with a good reputation. She is a girl of our circle, you know. But the stubborn guy did not want to understand anything, and continued to communicate with Natasha in defiance of his relatives. He was terribly jealous of her. It seemed to him that in the cafe everyone was just looking at her, and on the street too. The girl treated this very painfully and explained to the groom 100 times that she did not need anyone except him. After all, he is her first man. Is it really incomprehensible? But one day Zana received by mail the same folder with photos from an anonymous person. They depicted his Natasha, who passionately kissed her and hugged some bearded man. A terrible scandal erupted. Zana shook these pictures in front of her face. The girl was crying and did not understand what was happening, and swore that she had no one. The couple quarreled completely, and Natasha was mortally offended. After all, her conscience was indeed clear. Zanya was indignant and jealous. He believed that the bride had betrayed and disgraced him. It's been a couple of weeks. The guy cooled off a bit, greatly missed Natasha, and simply could not live without her. He decided to make peace, and find out everything calmly. But when he came to the cafe where his lover worked, he was informed that the girl had quit. Zanya did not understand anything. How? Why? He cut off her phone, but the number was not available. The guy rushed to the hostel, but even there it was a complete fiasco. The commandant said that the girl hastily moved out, where she did not report. That's all. The bride disappeared without a trace, and no matter how much Zanya searched for her, everything was in vain. The guy fell into a severe depression, withdrew. Except for work he didn't go anywhere else. Mom added fuel to the fire and even more reopened the wound. And I told you, in vain you contacted this unlucky orphan. I suppose she found another man for herself and whistled with him to hell, but she forgot to think about you. Yesterday I met Alia. She promised to come to visit you. You would still take a closer look at her. A very enviable bride. The next day, Olga really came to Zanya in the evening. The parents, as if by chance, went to visit old friends, and the young people were left alone in the apartment. The girl behaved uninhibitedly, took out a bottle of expensive Cinzano from her bag, and winked at Zanya. Well, hello, Zanya. Do you know that our parents rallied like never before and decided to marry us by hook or by crook? If anything, I'm not happy either, so you know. But, on the other hand, it is very tempting to have a plastic surgeon in your husband's. You will sculpt beauty for me for free. Well, what are you looking at? Grab your glasses. Let's drink to get to know each other. The guy grinned. And what do you think? You can get married like this without love and be happy. I don't believe in that, but I'll drink it with pleasure. My soul is so bad, I can't forget Natasha, for the life of me. I dream all the time. I'm terribly sad. I want to get drunk and forget about everything. They drank, then another, and in the morning they ended up together in the same bed. Zanya already jumped. He did not remember anything. Olga hugged him and sniffed peacefully. He began to shake her up and ask, Alia, wake up. How are you here? Did we have something? The girl laughed. Well, you give some oil of, and what do you think? Am I just lying here naked? Of course it was. What? You don't remember anything at all? It's even insulting. But he said such nice words to me. The boy sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. Excuse me. I don't know what came over me. Damn alcohol. This is a mistake. We shouldn't have. I love Natasha. The girl pouted her plump lips and answered. Well, no, my friend, it will not work like that. I dragged you into bed, and now it's a mistake. Now you and I are a couple, and nothing else. Otherwise, I'll complain to my dad. But he knows what post he holds with me. It is better not to quarrel with him. You'd better call me a taxi. It's time to go home. And tomorrow night we're going to an exhibition of one fashionable artist. My dad got me 2 invitations. Enough already. Grimace and shed tears for her orphan. She ran away and does not remember you. Shake it up finally. Life is one, and youth too. So they began to meet, and soon, under pressure from their parents, They played a magnificent and beautiful wedding. But the whole trouble was that Xenia did not love Olga a bit. Moreover, over the years she began to not only annoy him, but simply enrage him. Yes, she was outwardly impeccably beautiful and well-groomed, and Tristan was a prominent man, and everyone considered them an ideal couple. In public, they behaved like husband and wife, holding hands, smiling sweetly at everyone. And the houses just went to their rooms, that's all. They did not have common topics for conversation. Olga was only interested in boutiques, fashion shows and resorts, and Xenia went into work with his head. There he found an outlet, and quickly made a brilliant career. By the age of 35, he became a well-known and respected plastic surgeon throughout the capital. He did everything so masterfully and beautifully that even pop stars and politicians trusted him with their health. The man knew how to keep his mouth shut and never really spread to anyone who and how many times reshaped himself from famous personalities. For this, he was also greatly appreciated. The years flew by with the whistle. Even her favorite work became boring, and Xenia wanted more and more family comfort, love and children. And that's just what he didn't have. He persuaded Alia many times to give birth to a baby, but she did not even want to hear about it, and she deliberately drank pills. She did not want to spoil her impeccable figure and get up at night to a crying baby. She was quite satisfied with the well-fed, prosperous life of a socialite. Well, the fact that she and her husband are completely strangers and do not love each other did not bother her at all. The main thing is that the spouse does not drink, does not walk and earns enough money for her comforts. But lately Xenia has been feeling such melancholy, even howling like a wolf. So now, when he heard the music of his youth, he almost cried. I wanted to drink more and more. Suddenly on the side of the road a man noticed a girl of about 20. She sold milk and cottage cheese, shifting from one foot to the other from the cold and wrapping herself in a knitted scarf. And the surgeon suddenly thought, and I'll buy some homemade milk. I haven't drunk for 100 years. I'll quench my thirst. He slowed down on the side of the road, got out of the car and greeted affably, good afternoon, beauty. Milk for what? Fresh. So I wanted to drink. Give me, I think. I will buy a bottle. The girl smiled back and said, take it, it's not expensive at all. Only today she milked it herself, the freshest. Our Pisanka is so smart, the milk is just sweet. You'll like it. She handed him a bottle of milk. Tristan began to pay, and then he noticed a watch on the girl's hand. He took a closer look, and almost fainted. It was not just a watch, but the very antique ones that he once, many years ago, gave Natasha for her birthday. The man asked in a broken voice, girl, dear, good, can I take a closer look at the clock? Where do you get them from? There, on the reverse side, there should be an inscription, to my Tazia. May I have a look? The frightened milkmaid jerked her hand back and looked at him in disbelief. Do not touch me. Maybe you're a maniac or some other kind of crazy. Why do you need my watch? I'm going to scream now. The man pulled out a business card from his purse and handed it to her. You misunderstood. I scared you. Sorry, my name is Tristan Alexandrovich Samoilov. I'm a plastic surgeon. I'm going to an important symposium. You see, this is not just a watch. I gave the exact same ones to my girlfriend, and then she disappeared. Disappeared without a trace. I still haven't forgotten her. That is why it is so important for me to know if there is an inscription there, because I ordered them in a jewelry store. There can be no analogs. And where did you get them from? Perhaps you or your relatives knew Natasha and tell you where to look for her. The girl breathed a sigh of relief and removed the watch from her hand, holding it out to the man. Well, if so, then okay. Look, my name is Katya. A little girl gave me this watch as a token of gratitude. But it's a long story. I can tell you, but you're in a hurry. Tristan saw the same inscription on the back, and his eyes immediately moistened. Yes, those are the hours. He wasn't wrong. The man was eager to find out how they got to Katerina, and he suggested, I still have time, and the matter is very important. I must find out everything. Get in the car, tell everything in detail. Warm up at the same time. You are very cold, I can see. Katya did not need to be asked twice. She really chilled to the bones, and was not at all opposed to warming up in warmth. The girl stretched her chilled legs to the stove, and began the story. I do not even know where to start. It was about 6 months ago, even more. Last fall, I returned from the morning milking earlier than usual. She entered the wing and could not understand anything. There are crumbs of bread on the table, an almost empty can of food and a half-eaten pickle. The window is also open for ventilation. My mother is a very neat person, and could not leave behind such a mess. While I was thinking about this, I heard a sneeze and a rustle in the room. To be honest, my hair stood on end. Just at this time, a whole wave of robberies swept through our village. In a panic, I grabbed a heavy iron scoop and began to tiptoe into the room, and my very heart went into the heel with fear. Imagine my surprise when the sleepy head of a little girl, about 6 years old, appeared from the chest of drawers. She was so funny and grimy, just like the brownie Kuzya from the cartoon. I even laughed with relief and was glad that she was not a thief. The little girl rubbed her big eyes and babbled frightenedly, "Auntie, don't swear too much and don't hit, okay? I ate your food." I was very hungry, but I climbed in through the window. I am an orphan. My name is Sonia. It's cold outside, so I warmed up in a chest of drawers on things and fell asleep. "I'll leave now." I felt so sorry for the girl, and I replied, "Yes, sit until warm, I'll just clean up here. And then Mom will be back soon, and I will fall for nuts." But before I had time to properly clean up, my mother, Tamara, really entered the wing. She saw the baby and threw up her hands. "Here are those times." "And where are you from here?" And in grief, "Katusha, did you bring her here?" I told how it was, and my mother suddenly suggested, "How did you end up at the shelter? How long have you been there? Why are you running away?" Sonia sniffled and began to speak. "Mom died a long time ago. I was still very young. I don't even remember her. They sent me to an orphanage, but I feel very bad there. The elders take away the food, often beat it, and lock it in the back room for fun. And I'm afraid of mice and spiders, and I cry there all night. But they find it funny." And recently the older girls decided to run away to the village to steal apples, and I went with them. It seems they didn't catch us, and ate from the belly. But this time I decided to run away. "Here, in your garden I wanted to climb a tree, but I could not climb so high. Look, the window is open. I easily climbed in there. Well, then I ate your food and fell asleep. Are you not very angry with me?" My mother took the baby in her arms, hugged her. "Why should I scold you? Not from a good life. After all, she climbed into someone else's house. I feel sorry for you, Sonichka. Without supervision, you will go along a crooked path and right wasted. You know what? Live with us for a while. Take a break from the shelter. I don't promise pickles, but milk and porridge are always fresh, and the bed is clean. Is it coming? And then we'll come up with something." The girl was very happy and stayed with us, lived for a while. I took a liking to her like I would to my daughter. She sunk right onto my soul. Such a good girl, smart. I taught her to read and count a little. She loved fairy tales so much, especially about Cinderella. I read to her every evening. They watched it, bought normal things. But all the same, my mother and I were very afraid that they would look for her in the shelter and find her with us. The village is small. Yes, and a shelter is not a Sharashika office for you. So the three of us consulted, and decided that Sonia would be taken back and I would apply for her adoption. After all, I can't have children, I'm barren. The doctors said, a congenital pathology. Me and the groom, Petka, left because of this. Said he didn't need an empty flower. And then there is such a chance that a daughter will appear, and I can also become a mother. I immediately perked up. Sonia and I had already planned everything, where we would put a desk for her, where the bed. I bought toys, but we were all disappointed when we took Sonia away, and I told the director of the orphanage that I wanted to adopt her. She laughed right in my face. Can you imagine? She said that they would not give me a girl in my life. They say, I am not married and my financial situation is below average. I was outraged to the limit, but in our country half the country lives below the average. So what? Does this prevent someone from giving birth and raising children? Will a girl be better off in an orphanage where she is offended than in a loving family? But no matter how much I screamed, did not beg to hear me, they brushed me off like an annoying fly. Sonichko cried so much, did not want to part, and gave me this watch as a keepsake. She says she got them from her late mother, so I wear them without taking them off, and I almost cry. I really miss my baby. I visit her every weekend, and I hope for a miracle that something can change and I will be able to adopt her. This is my most cherished dream." Tristan listened very carefully, did not interrupt, and then said, "Thank you, Katenka." They took the time to tell me everything, give me the address of the shelter. "After my business, I will definitely go there and find out everything. I'll try to help you. All the best to you. Goodbye." "And your milk is really lovely." I already drank half a bottle while talking. From that moment Tristan lost sleep and peace completely. He counted the minutes until the end of the business trip. He suffered to go to the shelter to find out everything about the girl, to see her. After all, it was, though ghostly, but a thread that could lead to Natasha. Suddenly she gave the watch to that woman, the girl's mother. Maybe they were friends and will be able to find a favorite by last name. More than anything, the man dreamed of meeting Natasha. Oh, how he would hug her, kiss her, on his knees ask for forgiveness for that idiotic jealousy of his. Closer and dearer than a little man than she simply was not in his life. Finally, the surgeon returned home, and immediately, through his channels and connections, he contacted the director of the shelter, and arranged a meeting with her. It turned out to be an elderly, unpleasant lady. She reluctantly answered the questions of the man. "Sofia Klimova has been in our shelter since early childhood. Her mother died of a heart attack when she was only a year old, but I have no right to disclose information about it. You are not related to her, so sorry. You don't need to see either." "I don't see the point. The girl is problematic. She has repeatedly run away from the shelter, and at the age of 6, nothing good will grow out of this robber. There is absolutely nothing wrong with her." The man was taken aback. "Excuse me, why are you talking to me in such a tone? Why can't I see the girl? What's bad about it?" The manager chimed in. "There are a lot of these people walking around here, so I should distribute children to anyone. You need to be able to find and approach the people. You are asking for a favor. And anyway, I'm very busy, so don't delay. The door is behind you." Tristan left, and was simply indignant at such impudence of the manager. She was clearly hinting at a bribe, but he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Sonia's mother's surname is Klimov. This is definitely Natasha. She has the same surname." So the watch on the girl turned out to be like a memory from her mother. He slapped his forehead. "What a cretin I am. You can hire a private detective. Maybe he will dig up more information. Why didn't I think of this before?" And at the same time to talk with one important official, whose wife recently made breasts of the 4th size, and ask him to put pressure on the nasty headmistress and help Katya with the adoption, and at the same time to see the girl. No sooner said than done, and the man, in order not to waste time, which was not due to endless operations, entered into an agreement with a detective agency, and it gave its results. A week later he got a call from there and made an appointment. Eugene was handed a folder with the words, "Here is everything we learned about the life of Natalia Klimova. It is for you. We recommend paying attention to the address of her neighbor, Antonina. They say they were close friends. If you want, we can go there too." Tristan swallowed hard and shook his head. "Thank you for your work, and I'll go to my numbers. Thank you for everything and goodbye." He perfectly remembered Natasha's nondescript red-haired girlfriend, Tanya. Therefore, immediately, dropping everything, I went to the indicated address. A fat, portly woman in curlers and an apron opened the door for him. In the back of the room, children were crying. There was a smell of fried onions. Zanya was dumbfounded and did not immediately recognize that Tanya in her, so, just in case, he asked again, "Good afternoon, are you Antonina Mikhieva? Am I wrong?" She suddenly laughed. "Zanya, don't you recognize me?" "Of course, it's me, Tonka." "Well, I recovered a little, after the triplets, I understand. Come in. What fate brought you to our hostel? You are our bird of great flight. I heard how you are praised in every way as a great specialist in the female breast." The man answered quietly, "Tanya, let's talk about it later. Tell me where did Natasha disappear to?" After all, after our quarrel, she simply disappeared, evaporated. I've been looking for it everywhere, but in vain. Many years have passed, but I have not forgotten it. I could not, You understand? Do you remember what kind of love we had? If you know anything about her, please tell me. You were close friends. I recently found out that she supposedly has a daughter. This is true?" Antonina instantly became serious and thoughtful and began the story. "You're late, Xenia. Natasha has been gone for 6 years for sure. Such is fate. I don't know what happened between you then. Nadia didn't tell me." As soon as she abruptly quit her job, moved out of the hostel, and ran in with a suitcase to say goodbye to me for a minute, I was dumbfounded. I tried to persuade her not to get excited, but she only said with tears, "I can't help it, Tonichka. They intimidate me. Don't tell anyone that I came to you, and that's what. Leave this with you for now. I can pick it up later, when everything settles down." Actually, this is for Xenia. She wanted to give it to him herself, but did not dare. I don't know yet if it's worth it. We kissed and she left. It was then that she called me a couple of times, saying that she had given birth to a daughter, Sonichka. I was happy for her. She lived in a nearby town. I kept wanting to go to her place, to see her, to find out how she lives. But you yourself understand, husband, small children, you won't especially escape. And then, a year later, they called me and said that Natasha was no more. I went to the funeral, helped with money, organized everything as expected. The daughter was sent to an orphanage. It was so pitiful for the baby. She was crying, tearing herself up, pulling her hands, calling her mother. I wanted to take her away, but Mayurka got into a rage, said, "Choose, either me or someone else's child." So, she loved you very much, Xenia. She definitely didn't have other men. Yes, I still have that same folder. Take it away, especially since it seems to have been intended for you. I wanted to give it to you, and then I found out that you married someone else and changed your mind. Why stir up the past? You have a completely different new life, without Natasha. Xenia's hands were shaking. He took the envelope and asked in amazement, "Tanya, but have you really not opened it for so many years?" She, too, was surprised. "What are you, Zen?" "Natasha and I grew up in an orphanage." For such hands beat off. "It's not mine and not me, so you can't touch it. That's the law." There, look how the letter was sealed. It is. After Natasha's death, she didn't trace her hand to throw it away, but she didn't read it either, which irritated her soul. The man hugged the woman cordially in parting and thanked, "Thank you, Tonichka, for saving the letter. It is very important for me. Farewell. Good luck with everything." Already in the car, Tristan opened the envelope. There were the same ill-fated photographs, because of which they quarreled. Leaving, he threw them in the face of the bride. And a letter. The man began to read it, whispering aloud every word. Dear Zenichka, at first I was very angry with you, even hated you, for your stupid jealousy. And I want you to know that it's not my fault. You are the only man in my life. There was no one else, and probably never will be. I was so hoping that everything would settle down and we would finally make up, as usual, and I would forgive you. But then a certain Olga appeared with your mother. They began to intimidate me, and demanded that I immediately get out of the city and your life forever. Otherwise, they said that those pictures with the installation will seem to me only flowers and hired thugs will take care of the matter. I was so scared then, because they obviously weren't joking and threatened to throw acid in my face if I didn't calm down. Already leaving, Olga said that you would soon get married, and everything had already been decided. And you knew about it and were silent, and with me you just had fun for fun. You have no idea how hurt and disgusting my soul is now. Why are you all doing this to me? Farewell, my dear. And know that in spite of everything I still love you. Your Natasha. Tristan could not contain his emotions. He did not just cry, he sobbed, and beat in a frenzy with his hands on the steering wheel. He shouted, "Crap, crap, what a fool I am." Well, why did I believe then in this nonsense? How could he offend and humiliate the girl he loved so much without really understanding it? And Olga? How could she do such a thing? It turns out that his breakup with the bride, and their bed with Olga, all this is a carefully thought-out scenario of my beloved mother, in which I only played the role of a puppet. Inexperienced puppeteers pulled the strings and applauded when they succeeded. I will not be able to live with this monster in a female form under the same roof for another minute. Well, I'll ask her now. And the worst thing is that nothing can be fixed. No more Natasha. She died without waiting for forgiveness. Although why not? And Sonia, I'm pretty sure it's my daughter. Full of anger and determination to finally change his life, Tristan entered the mansion. Olga, as always, lay in a peignoir on a poof and flipped through a fashionable glossy magazine with a bored look. She glanced at her husband and casually said, "You're late today." Another hard day. Emotions overwhelmed Eugene. "You can't even imagine how much. And by the way, I'm divorcing you. We have nothing to share, no children. You and I are strangers from the very beginning, and this marriage is the worst mistake in my life, as well as parting with Natasha, to which you had a hand. As it turned out today, how do you live in peace all these years? Conscience does not torment. Tell me, why did you threaten my fiancé? Through me these terrible pictures mounted with supposedly her betrayal. For what? Would you still love me? But no. Then why?" The woman was distorted by a grimace of anger and she threw the magazine aside and jumped up from the ottoman, as if scalded. "Oh, how did you talk? Divorce for you? Yes, please. You have been like a bone in my throat for many years. Damn righteous. Do you want to know the truth? So get it. It's just that your mother tearfully asked me to help get rid of the annoying orphan, who, like a bath leaf, has stuck to her beloved son and does not give her pass. Not only that, she offered me a lot of money for this, and at the same time the vacant position of your wife. It was so funny to watch your uncouth hillbilly sob and run from the city with his heels sparkling, and it was as easy as shelling pears to get you shackled. The main thing was to give you a good drink, and I had no doubt that you would not leave the defiled girl and marry her. At first, I was even interested. Everything was like a fun game. Besides, what girl would turn down a big wedding? Well, then you bored me terribly. It's boring with you, but in bed you're generally zero. If you want to know, I've always cheated on you, so you're a long-time cuckold," Tristan said quietly. "Well, you and rubbish. How did I not notice this before?" "Well, of course, when I notice, I'd earned money for your pleasures with lovers. And Natasha, I will never forgive you. You ruined the lives of both of us. Do you understand it or not? I'm leaving now. I will file for divorce myself. I will send the documents by mail." Tristan moved into a rented apartment. It was quiet and modest there, and he even felt better at the mere thought that nothing more connected him with this terrible woman. In the clinic, Tristan took a vacation, because, it's a joke, he hadn't rested for 2 years, and came to grips with the issue of adopting Sonia. For the time being, under pressure from the right official, Katya was allowed to submit all the documents, and she was only waiting for a positive decision to take the girl and become her guardian. The woman was allowed to take the baby for the weekend, and Tristan decided to go to visit them and finally see the child with his own eyes. On the way, the surgeon bought a lot of sweets and fruits, and a big baby doll with a toy stroller. The milkmaid's house was large, but not very well maintained. It was felt that a man's hand was missing in it. Katya came out on the threshold and was very happy to see her benefactor, because it was with his light hand that she was allowed to adopt Sonia. The girl led the guest into the house. The table was already set there. Everything is simple: cabbage soup, cutlets piping hot with baked potatoes and cheesecakes with cottage cheese. Homemade. Katya brought the baby to him and introduced them. "Sonichka, this is Uncle Zenya. He is a doctor and a very good person. Helped us to intermarry." The girl smiled confidentially at Eugene and began to look at him with interest. Katya, meanwhile, introduced the surgeon to her mother. The woman could not walk well, had problems with her joints, and looked quite ill. She, too, began to thank Yevgeny from the bottom of her heart for helping them adopt Sonia. And the man stood as if rooted to the spot, nodded his head, but did not hear her, because he could not take his eyes off the baby. He seemed to see his own and Natasha's reflection. Here are his grey eyes with long cilia, and a pointed nose, but plump lips, and Natasha's 100% smile. And her hair, too, is so thick and lush. He barely came to his senses when Sonia began to pull on his sleeve. "Uncle Zenya, let's go to dinner." "What are you standing for? Don't be shy. Sit down at the table. If you want, I'll show you my drawings later." "Mom, Katya says I'm doing great, especially animals." The three of us dined, talked. Tristan ate with great appetite and all praised Katya's cheesecakes. "Oh, thank you. So tasty. It's been a long time since I dined with good people like this." "What a hostess. Young, beautiful, and golden hands." "Here's someone lucky." Katya blushed at his compliments, and lowered her eyes, quietly answered, "Come on, you say too." "Now I don't need anyone except Sonia. She is my light in the window." "Yes, buddy, go to mom. Soon we will be allowed to live together, and we will never part with my bead. It's not me. She chose me." No wonder it climbed into our window, and the woman began to tickle and kiss the girl, and she got out and laughed fervently. Then they all together began to sort out the gifts they had brought. The girl was happy with the baby doll, and lulled and rolled him around the house, playing at her mother's daughters, and Tristan quietly removed a few strands of hair from her shoulder and put them in a special bag. He was determined and wanted to make an examination. The man has not yet begun to say anything to either Katya or Sonia and decided to wait for the results first. Those 3 days seemed like an eternity to him. Why didn't he just change his mind during this time? What if I came up with everything, and Sonia is not my daughter? What if mine? How am I supposed to tell her about this? How to explain to a 6-year-old child that I am my own father, alive and well, and she spent all these years in a terrible orphanage? But how can I tell Katya that not she, but I will adopt Sonia? Does that mean I'll betray her? Will I cheat? Finally the result came, as expected. It was positive. The documents said that he was 99 9/10% Sonia's father. The surgeon happily jumped up and kissed the coveted piece of paper. Everything inside trembled with happiness that overwhelmed him. The meaning of life has appeared. There is someone to live for. He is not alone. His dream came true. He is a father. Tristan was exhausted. He did not know what to do, with whom to talk first, with his daughter or Katerina. What to say? After all, the situation was very difficult. The girl almost adopted his own daughter. You only see something like this in the series, and it's clear that she fell in love with her very much, became attached to the girl. But what to do? The man also could not refuse his own daughter and remain for her someone else's uncle. After spending a sleepless night, Tristan nevertheless decided to go to the shelter and talk to Sonia. When he put the result of the genetic examination in front of the manager, she was simply stunned. "Listen, well you give. Why are you fooling my head endlessly? Everything is ready for adoption. Now what? Some lunatic. Now I will bring Sonia. Talk, if such a thing." "Dad?" Though the surprised girl and Tristan were left alone in the playroom, the man took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and began a conversation. "Sonichka, my girl, it's hard to believe what I'm about to tell you, but I'm your real dad, and you are my own daughter. I didn't know about it until yesterday. You imagine? Are you glad? I am very happy that I found you. Now I can adopt you. We will live together." The girl happily threw herself onto his neck and murmured, "Hooray, Daddy, you found me. I'm also glad that now I have. I often thought in the orphanage, what a pity that my mother is gone, and I don't know my father. Only I don't agree with you to live without Katya's mother. I love her, she milks the cows and gives me fresh milk. I won't go anywhere without her." Zanya's heart ached. He realized how important Katya was to her daughter, how she had become attached to her soul, and to separate them means to tear them to the quick. So he pressed his daughter closer to him and whispered, "As you say, my princess, I will fulfill your wish, and Katya will be your mother. Honestly, I promise." The girl hugged him tightly in response and squealed with joy, and the man's soul felt so warm and good. His heart was filled with that very indescribable love for this little man, which he will never give to anyone now. He instantly made an important decision for himself, to marry the milkmaid Katya and create a real strong family. The very next day, he appeared at her house with a huge bouquet of scarlet roses, and solemnly handed it to the girl. Katya was simply stunned, because no one had ever given her such gifts. Former fiancé Tilda copyright Petka could steal a bouquet of daisies from a neighboring flower bed on a drunken case. She wondered why such a grand gesture, but she invited the guest to the house, began to fuss, make tea, get currant jam and gingerbread. Tristan exhaled, and began the first most important conversation in his life. "Katya, what I'm about to tell you will probably shock you, but believe me, I myself only recently found out everything. Get ready and listen. I did a genetic examination, and it showed that Sonia is actually my own daughter. Can you imagine that? I cried with happiness when I found out. I didn't even hope to become a father, to be honest. Here, read. The girl looked at him dumbfounded, then looked at the document for a long time, and then suddenly sat down on a stool and sobbed bitterly. Why am I so unlucky? Damn, am I? I just fell in love with the baby, got used to her, felt like a mother, and now what? It is clear that the child will be given to you, not to me. I just can't take it. I can't imagine how I will live without Sonia. Why did I only meet you to my misfortune? It would be better if you didn't see this watch at all. So at least there was hope that someday they would give me a child. But now what? Leave. I beg you. I'm so sad and heartbroken. Tristan immediately jumped up, turned the tear-stained girl sharply towards him and looking straight into her eyes said, "You didn't listen. Stupid. And you're already driving me away. I don't want to hurt either you or Sonia. I see how you love each other, but I can't refuse my own daughter, understand? So, I thought, and decided, marry me. Together we will raise and love our girl, and everyone will be fine." Katya was completely speechless and answered, "Are you joking like that right now? Or am I dreaming all this? But what about love, feelings? After all, we have known each other for a week. We hardly know each other. Is it possible?" "This is wrong." Xenia took her by the hand and answered, "Who needs those damn rules? Tell, we both love Sonia, and this is the main thing. Slowly we get to know each other. I'll do anything to make you love me, honestly. I am a famous plastic surgeon, everyone knows and respects me, so I am not the worst fiancé in the world. You are also young, pretty, hardworking, smart girl, which are few. So what prevents us from creating a strong family? Why tear the soul apart and divide the child?" Katya suddenly became serious, pondered, and quietly answered, "I agree, for Sonia's sake, but promise me you won't pressure me. I will also try to become the best wife and mother for a girl. I hope everything will work out for us, although it is so strange and unexpected. But you live in the capital. But what about my mom? Housekeeping? Cows? Who am I going to throw it all at?" Xenia's heart was relieved. He smiled. "You don't have to leave anyone, we'll take my mother with us. I'll buy a house. Let's treat her. I have connections in hospitals. Everything's gonna be alright. Do not worry." "Thank you for believing me and agreeing. You will not regret a broken bar." When the surgeon went home, Katya hurried to tell her mother everything. She has a poster on her shoulder and was worried. "Mother, what should I do? I'm a fool. Yes, that I agreed to this adventure. We are so little acquainted with Xenia, I still call him you. And then I get married. What if nothing comes of it, and we can't get along? I always thought that you need to fall in love first, and then get married. And here is this." An elderly woman stroked Katya's head and said, "You know, daughter, I lived a long and hard life. I raised you alone, without a husband. You yourself remember how hard we lived. And even now we are tightening the belt. Well, you loved your Petka. So what? How much good has he done for you? I'm not talking about beautiful sweet speeches now, but about real male deeds. That's it. When I found out that you were barren, I immediately left, stepped over, spat and did not look back. Now judge for yourself." "Tristan is a serious man, doctor. He immediately knew that you couldn't have children. Didn't you yourself tell him about it at the first meeting? A man offers you not to go to bed with him, but to create a family, raising a child together. It's worth it, trust me. Agree and don't hesitate. I have seen many different people, and I can tell you that he is a good, kind person. You can see it. And love, baby, is in actions, in care. It arrives with time, you'll see. At first, it may not be easy. You need to give in to each other, learn to live for each other. But when you realize that you cannot find a better husband, your soul will be filled with light and you will become absolutely happy." Katya calmed down and said, "Thank you, Mommy, for your advice. You don't wish bad. In the end, this is such a chance to change your life and fulfill your old and almost unrealizable dream, to become a mother and wife. It's a sin not to use it." Since that moment, Eugene's life has changed dramatically. He withdrew almost all of his savings from his bank account and bought a spacious country house. He provided a separate room for everyone, Sonichka equipped a nursery, and even a small sports ground, because his fidget was a terrible fidget. He wouldn't sit still for a minute, and that would be where to put his energy. Around was a coniferous forest, wonderful nature, a quiet and peaceful place. He did not want to immediately immerse Katya in the frantic rhythm of metropolitan life. After all, she is a village woman, and got used to a measured routine. A month later, the couple modestly signed in the registry office unofficially adopted Sonia. Everyone moved to live in a mansion. Katya turned out to be an excellent hostess. She literally had everything in her hands on fire. She cooked wonderfully, and pampered her relatives with all sorts of goodies. Day after day, their relationship became closer and warmer. Caring for her daughter greatly contributed to this. Xenia, as promised, did not put pressure on Katya. He patiently waited until she herself wanted closeness. She truly loved him, and he didn't even realize that Katya secretly only dreams that Xenia would show just perseverance and take the first step towards rapprochement. Katya's mother, Tamara Vasilievna, was treated in a specialized clinic, and she felt much better. Now the woman walked quite cheerfully on her own, relying only on a cane. She could not get enough of such a wonderful son-in-law. In every possible way praised Eugene. He walked proud and contented. But Tamara Vasilievna saw and understood everything, and one day she could not stand it. She decided to talk directly with her daughter while her son-in-law was at work, and Sonia was running around in the yard. "Katusha, tell me honestly, don't you like Xenia at all? You still can't love him like a man, can you?" The daughter replied in surprise, "No, what are you? On the contrary, I just now realized how right you were. I see how he takes care of us all, protects, loves. So I am very lucky with my husband." The old woman frowned. "Then answer me one question, will you mock him for a long time and not let him near you? After all, I see and notice everything. Xenia looks at you with such eyes, directly eats with her eyes. Bear in mind that a man's patience is not rubber. You can lose your husband altogether." Katya blushed. The conversation turned out to be very frank, and quietly answered, "Yes, I don't mind at all, on the contrary, and I myself already want this very much, but you see, I'm probably to blame for everything." I told him then not to put pressure on me, so he endures. And I, too, am shy and cannot take the first step. Well, what should I come to him at night and say, "Let's sleep"? I can't do that. Tamara Vasilievna just shook her head. "Oh, what kind of children you are. Even though you are already such adults, you torture each other and you don't know why." "So it is, daughter. My beloved son-in-law got me a last-minute ticket to a sanatorium. They treat joints there, they say, and they really work wonders. Mud, all sorts of procedures. I take Sonia with me. Let's rest with her for a couple of weeks. Take a walk, there is a pool. And you don't waste time, as you wish, but so that you can establish a family life with your husband. Such is my advice. You will have a honeymoon." Tamara Vasilievna and her granddaughter went on vacation. Xenia took them to the station and personally put them on the train, making sure that everything in the compartment was of the highest standard. On the way home, he bought a huge basket of flowers and champagne, as well as fresh fragrant strawberries. I really wanted to please my Katya and arrange a romantic evening. But when he entered the house, he was simply stunned. The light was muffled, aromatic candles crackled softly. Katya was nowhere to be seen. The man quietly went into his bedroom to change into home clothes and froze. On the bed, curled up, his wife slept. She was dressed in a chic bright red dress with an impressive neckline, her hair scattered over the pillow in beautiful curls. She was just beautiful. The man sat down next to her and admired, then began to carefully stroke her hair. It was pleasant and smooth to the touch, like silk. He clung to her, inhaling the light scent of floral perfume and tenderness. Katya was startled by gentle touches, a little embarrassed, and stammered, "Zenichka, are you already at home?" "Oh, and I decided to arrange a surprise for you." I lit the candles, dressed up. I thought, now you will come in and be surprised. It's stupid, right? And then she lay down and fell asleep. Tristan said quietly, "What a beautiful, tender girl you are. Can I kiss you?" Katya herself reached out to him, and they merged in a passionate kiss. That night they did not sleep until dawn. Xenia could not believe his happiness. He kissed the hands and every centimeter of the body of his beloved, they hugged, ate sweet strawberries, drank champagne, and loved each other again. Already in the morning, falling asleep, Xenia whispered, hugging his wife tightly, "God, what fools we are, so much time wasted in vain. Now I will not let you out of my arms, just know." Katya smiled, clinging even closer to her beloved, and blissfully fell asleep. It was so easy and free in her soul. She had never felt so good with anyone. The honeymoon was a success, and the grandmother and granddaughter who arrived from vacation immediately noticed the changes in the house. Katya beamed and fluttered. Sparks of enthusiasm and absolute happiness jumped in her eyes, and Xenia looked very pleased, and just completely changed. Tamar Vasilevna thought to herself with relief, "Well, finally, everything is fine with the children. The Lord heard my prayers." Parents squeezed and hugged their daughter, and she, vying with each other, told them about what she and her grandmother did on vacation. Since Sonia found her parents and a real family, she has changed a lot. Now it was not a hunted orphan from the orphanage, who was forced to steal from hunger. Now she was a self-confident smart girl. She went to first grade, talked with everyone, chirped incessantly, and was no different from other home children. Xenia decided to do his duty and find Natasha's grave. He had to, was obliged to obey, to ask her forgiveness for everything, even if it was too late. So he did. For a long time I wandered around the cemetery in a neighboring town and with difficulty found an abandoned grave, with a half-rotten wooden cross and a barely visible inscription with the name and date of birth of the deceased. The man brought perfect order there and ordered and installed a beautiful monument. He planted red poppies nearby. The bride loved them so much. Then he sat down on a bench and began to whisper, "That's better. Now you can bring Sonia here too. Forgive me, Natasha, that I turned out to be such a bastard. I betrayed you, humiliated you then for nothing. As a result, both you and yourself have crippled fate. You know, my dear, all these years I have kept the memory of our love in my heart. And now I met Katya. You're not angry, are you? She is very good, gentle, loves our daughter, and in some way reminds me of you very much. Our daughter is already such an adult. She went to first grade. Fidget is impossible. Already managed to fight with the boy. Sleep well and know that I will always love and protect our baby with you, and I will not let anyone hurt her." One day Xenia decided to pamper his family and order sushi. Tamar Vasilevna wondered for a long time how you can eat with chopsticks and what kind of curiosity is this. Everyone liked the meal. It was only at night that Katya became ill. She vomited until the morning. Her health was disgusting. Frightened, Xenia thought that she had poisoning after exotic, and took her to the infectious disease department for examination. Although it was strange, because everyone ate, and only Katya got poisoned. The surgeon waited an hour while his good friend and best infectious disease specialist examined his wife. Finally both left. Katya looked very frightened and was crying. She was pale as chalk. She was shivering. Xenia impatiently almost shouted out in his nerves, "Well, what is it, Pyotr Grigorievich? Don't languish. Something serious?" I thought it was poisoning. This restaurant was also recommended to me as a very good one. That's because, whether they are wrong, these sushi, so that the wife suffered so much because of them. The doctor stopped the tirade with a gesture and replied, "Yes, you are full, my dear. The restaurant has nothing to do with it. And in general you have come to the wrong address. Gynecology floor above. Your wife is so sick because she is pregnant. She just has an intolerance to seafood. That's how her body reacted. That's all. I prescribed her a good sorbent. Drink it for a couple of days. Everything will work out. But get registered. Do not delay it." Tristan could not believe the words of the doctor and looked dumbfounded at the crying Katya. "Lord, what happiness! What are you crying about? Sunshine? Or very bad? Maybe some water for you? Or buy tea?" The woman sobbed, tears all flowing in streams down her cheeks. "I don't believe. After all, they repeatedly told me in the regional center that I was barren, like some congenital anomalies. And here it is." "Are you sure you're right?" doctor?" He just smiled. "You can go to the gynecologist for an ultrasound and double-check, but judging by the tests, you are still pregnant. With what I congratulate you." Apparently, colleagues with the diagnosis were mistaken. Anything can happen. Katya could not believe it, and went for an ultrasound scan. Only when the specialist showed her a spot on the monitor that looked like a poppy seed and said that this was the future baby, the woman realized that a miracle had happened, and she will soon give birth to a baby herself. She was overwhelmed with a sea of emotions, incredible happiness, inspiration, anxiety. "But is everything normal there?" Tamara Vasilievna, having heard such stunning news, almost began to kiss Xenia's hands. "Well, son-in-law, well done." Katya has long despaired and resigned herself to the fact that she will never be able to become a mother. "But did you manage to make her a child?" "Tomorrow I will go to church, light a candle, thank the Lord, because children are a gift from God." Xenia did not hide anything from his daughter, although he was a little afraid of her reaction. So he said, as always directly, "Sonichka, soon you will have a brother or sister. Are you glad? You will have someone to run around the yard with and play locks when the baby grows up. Don't worry and don't overthink anything. Mom and I will love you as much as we do now, even more." To their surprise, the baby took the news easily and calmly. She immediately began to chatter. "Wow, it's cool. Mom, will you let me carry a baby in my arms? How about in a wheelchair? Is it like mother's daughters? Like my baby doll, only alive, right?" Katya laughed and hugged the baby. "Of course, my bead. Together we will roll, and bathe, and swaddle, and not sleep at night. It definitely won't be boring. But we can do it, because we are a team." Tamara Vasilievna invited everyone to dinner, and then they watched a children's comedy about Santa Claus together, and laughed heartily. Sonia lay in the middle, between Dad and Mom, and she felt so good, warm and comfortable, because she was guarded on both sides by two loving hearts. And Tamara Vasilievna knitted a fashionable long scarf in her granddaughter's chair and admired the family, sincerely rejoiced for her Tenka, who was so lucky at last in her life. Xenia hugged his beloved girls and his soul was filled with absolute happiness. Finally, he realized himself as a husband, a master of the house, a loving father. Indeed, without these three components, a man is unlikely to be happy. And only Olga, Evgeny's ex-wife, years later bitterly regretted that she had so stupidly missed her happiness. She did not get younger. Her lovers succeeded one another, but all this was a momentary pleasure. And now she also wanted someone like Xenia, a stable, faithful, and decent man. Yes, and children could already have. But God did not give everything. All parties and fashion shows have long become boring. The resorts are also fed up. Therefore, the women, in order to drown out loneliness and oppressive melancholy, began to drink more and more often. First, a couple of glasses of wine, then champagne, and then whiskey. She became especially bitter when she accidentally saw an article in a popular women's magazine about the famous plastic surgeon, Evgeny Samoilov. It said what a talented and good person he was, and there was also a photo of his whole family. Xenia was sitting on a soft sofa, and gently hugging a young pretty woman. Next to them sat a girl of about 7 years old, very similar to him, and in her arms she was still a baby, infancy. There was a caption under the photo, "A happy husband and father of a large family with his wife Katerina and their daughters." Olga peered into the painfully familiar features and saw that Xenia was absolutely happy without her. He was directly glowing. Pride for his wife and children was red in his eyes. The woman got angry, tore the page out and tore it to shreds. She took a sip of scalding strong cognac, and whispered, "But in the place of this young girl could be me. If I hadn't been a fool and didn't drink those damn contraceptive pills, and had at least a little respect for Xenia. Then he seemed to me a boring bore. And now, what am I left with? An aging secular lady, 100 years old, really unnecessary to anyone. There is a lot of money, but there was no happiness, and there is no." If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it. See you tomorrow.